Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing a Duskblade tier list. So if you enjoy my content, like and subscribe and let's get into it. So I didn't really think about making a Duskblade tier list. I didn't think there were enough users of it in the top lane. Then the item got buffed and in turn a lot of champs can now use this and compete with Youmuu's after Youmuu's has also been nerfed. So in general, it's worth making a tier list about this item, so let's talk about some of the champs that can use it. Obviously, there are going to be some C tier champs. I've already filled in the D tier. There is a lot of champs which obviously can't use this item. But then, things like Nasus, Lethality Nasus, obviously a low elo, usable kind of champion. I wouldn't go playing this in high elo, but if you're doing something for fun, then it can be an option. Lethality Poppy always has existed because you used to have like your collector builds in the past. Does work with lethality, has some AD ratios, not a huge amount, but definitely there. So you can kind of work with that. Olaf can work with lethality as well, has a lot of value in the crit build. You can opt into Duskblade in amongst this. There are other champs, things like Set, Halo Blade Set with lethality can function. Quinn can also work with this item if you're running something like a lethality collector hybrid crit build. There are also options there. Darius, just because he has really high AD ratios, can work with this item. You don't really want lethality on Darius, but that is an option. Fiora, also once again, high AD ratios, can function with just with a high AD item. Warwick, basis of his Q doing a lot of damage and the AD ratio on it, are also having an AD ratio. Both function with this item. Likes it when people are low on health. This item amps when people are low on health, and then the invulnerability that has value on Warwick, and then Vayne can function with the item. Doesn't value lethality as much, but if you're going the Qmax build, there are ways this item does function. Moving on to the B tier, these are the champs which can actually kind of use this item and you wouldn't be considered trolling if you do it. So Pantheon, for example, can work with Duskblade. You want to go Eclipse for the most part. Youmuu's, I'm pretty sure, still also outperforms this item, but it can work. More niche, but definitely an option there. Renekton, probably his best mythic. I imagine it performs over Eclipse. You're still gonna go Gordrick or Stridebreaker, but as a lethality option, it is there. Like some really big AD ratios. After the champ got kind of pushed towards more of a high AD build over being a tanky champion, they gave him a lot of AD ratios. Things like the W max with PTA can work quite well with lethality. So that is an option. This wouldn't be this wouldn't even be that troll if you're going for if you're just going into it. If you're playing into a squishy comp as Renekton, W maxing with the Duskblade is a legit Q, and then W maxing with the Duskblade and PTA is a legit strategy if you're going something like a lethality build or just a high AD build on top of that. Kled can work with this item. It might be his best in slot. We just don't have a lot of game sample sizes, so I'm going to leave it as it can work. Things like Stridebreaker and Eclipse perform really well on this champion, so he has a lot of so it would have to be really, really overtuned to be quite powerful on him. But it has a high win rate. It does work similarly to Eclipse. It has relatively similar stat line. It is a relatively just nice item for him in general. Likes it when people are low on health. The Invon quite powerful on this champion. So overall, can possibly be his best in slot. Just not a huge amount of games to back it up with. Udyr, it is his best item. Like for lethality, you don't. It kind of is his best item, but then at the same time you value the movement speed of Youmuu's. For just Duskblade with the Invon and the really, really high damage amp later on, when they are below 30% and you're getting 30% damage, it is incredibly valuable to have this item on Udyr because of the way his Q functions, where you get the first auto in, you chunk them for a huge amount of their health bar, and then you Q them again. You're looking to kill them in this Q. You don't usually find this as much with Youmuu's, but when you get that 30% damage amp on Duskblade, it is really valuable. It's more of a can work because, of course, it's not going to be as strong. Well, lethality is more of a cheese playstyle than things like your demonics tank playstyle and your Triforce bruiser playstyle. But there are ways this can function. It is pretty good, and it wouldn't even surprise me if lethality Udyr was to pop up a lot more because of this build. It is kind of sleeper, but it does make him really squishy, does put him in a very vulnerable spot. Akshan can work with this item. He does value things like the crit mythics a lot more at the moment. IE works quite well on him, Gale Force works quite well on him. Not a huge fan of Ginsu's Akshan, but that does also function. Youmuu's Akshan is another option. Like, he does function just with a lot of these items, but you tend to build them either second, third, just because you can really value the stats of like Collector, Kraken Slayer, Storm Razor to a degree. All these items can function on him, so you tend to build these options later on, and that can inflate their win rates and just their overall stats, but they do work because he does synergize with their stat profiles. Alawi, once again, you don't really want to build anything other than the like your Triforces, your Divine Cinemas, your Ice Spawns, but the lethality Alawi can function, which is why I'm going to put it here. I got really values lethality. Lethality is probably one of Igot's best stats. Used to be really tied to Prowler's Claw as an item, then that got removed. Youmuu's then became his best option. I had a lot of fun playing Youmuu's. Then they heavily nerfed the item, and now Duskblade kind of compete. Well, they both work as lethality options. You're really going the Radiant, like the Arpog Radiant Redemption build on Igot, but lethality it still does function. You kind of still value the movement speed on Youmuu's for your chase and just your raw burst damage, raw upfront burst damage, because then you can get the execute on R, so you don't need the 30% threshold as much. But it is there. It does work. Similar. It is strong alongside Youmuu's, so it's more of just a can work option. Jace. Now Jace is a champion who really valued Eclipse, then really valued Youmuu's. Youmuu's Jace became was a really strong option. They nerfed Youmuu's. It now sits similar to Eclipse, slightly higher up than Eclipse. But Duskblade looking like his best option now. He does value the 30% threshold on the item, also values the invuln. The stat line's really nice for him, so it's probably his best in the slot. Just not a huge amount of games on it, so it's hard to say for sure. But overall, everything does point at this being his best in slot. I definitely give it a try. But yeah, Youmuu's, Eclipse, still really good options on him. Yeah, Rengar. This champion is also probably got this item as his best in slot. It also has a lot less games than things like your Youmuu's, and I'm pretty sure it has less games than your Eclipse on Rengar, but it does outperform both of them by quite a margin. Rengar obviously a high frustration point at the moment. Does just work well with a lot of items. He can itemize into Bruiser as well as lethality, but yeah, Duskblade works quite well on him. Probably his best in slot, but we have to see a couple more games to really be able to tell for sure. Aatrox does work quite well with this item. It is similar to Eclipse, where Eclipse has a value in having the shield and the just the stat line being quite nice on it. This item has a lot of value in the stat line and then the 30% damage jam. If you're going for a glass cannon Aatrox build, this is your best option. Things like Ravenous and Duskblade work quite well together. Yeah, mainly just glass cannon Aatrox. If you're turbo far ahead, turbo stomping in low elo, you can just run this item and have a lot of fun with it. Gangplank can work quite well with this option. If you're if you're going things like Essence Reaver, Collector, Duskblade, it can work quite well on him. But he really does value Navori quite highly, so calling it his best in slot is probably not true, but definitely one of his best strong options. Yeah, alongside Navori, you can go Duskblade. It's probably his second best option. It probably performs better than IE. Graves performs similarly to Youmuu's, but you are probably going to go Youmuu's Graves over this. You might even go with things like Crit and Triforce Graves, but overall, all these items perform relatively similar to each other. I think Triforce might be his best in slot at the moment, but once again, not a lot of sample size on that. Does feel quite good to use, does have things which synergize with it within the kit. But yeah, just works similar to Yomu's, similar stat profile. So yeah, Wukong. This is more towards lethality Wukong, like mid. But yeah, like lethality Wukong mid can work with this option. Same with lethality Wukong jungle. Lethality Wukong top is a bit harder to pull off, but it definitely works. It is a very strong option on him. You are probably still going to itemize towards Triforce though, but Duskblade definitely does function as an item. Riven. This might be Riven's best slot alongside Yomu's. Riven always does perform quite well with lethality mythics, but you still tend to see things like your Gore Drinker picked up more, which is very strange because Yomu's really powerful item on Riven was on when Yomu's was first released as a mythic option. Riven was the best abuser of this item by an absolute landslide. She could destroy champions with it. She really values lethality, really values high AD, and just overall this item is so powerful. And yeah, like not a huge amount of people adopted it. Same for the moment, but Duskblade does work as a contending option. Yorick. Now this is lethality Yorick. We're talking about things like your Shrelders, your Collector, your Duskblade all have a lot of value on this champion. Makes him quite powerful and obnoxious. Things like Arcade Comet, Conqueror are your options to go here. I think there might be other rune sets, things like your First Strike, but yeah, lethality Yorick. This is probably his best in slot. Definitely give it a go. It's quite fun to play lethality Yorick for your goals are just one-shotting people. Kayn, this is definitely Kayn's best in slot in the top lane. Outperforms Yomu's by a decent amount. Not quite the same sample size, but still really strong. Good option. Definitely consider building it. Well, yeah, outperforms Yomu's, so it is really powerful. Overall, these are the Duskblade champions. Kind of took me by surprise how many there were. I didn't think it was as strong as this, but I knew there were definitely a lot more options than people had kind of picked up on. So yeah, definitely give this item more of a try on a lot of these champions. They do have low sample sizes, so it's quite hard to look at the data. But from a perspective of being able to like look at what the champions have used in the past, how they use AD, what kind of stats they really value, a lot of these champions would be actual like good abusers of it, which is why they make sense to be where they are, and whether they can hold that win rate, we'd have to see. But yeah, that's kind of the idea. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.